Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Sweet Dose. I have a very special guest with me today, Nicole White. I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Nicole, so you can introduce yourself, talk about your diagnosis a little bit, and anything else prevalent that you want our community to know about.
So, hello everyone. I am Nicole White. I am 3-year post-diagnosis of a very long 10-year battle of being misdiagnosed. I was diagnosed February the 19th, 2019, and I have probably completed every part of the grieving process as I try to unpack and understand what life's new meaning is for me. I am currently an elementary school principal of 330 students, pre-K through 8th grade, servicing a high needs community on Chicago's South Side.
Wow.
And I am a mother and of course daughter, and wear so many hats throughout all of my life and all of the capacities in which I try to serve people. So that's pretty much the short of who I am. And I'm learning how to get to know the new Nicole, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about that. So that's pretty much who I am.
Yep. So you kind of went into a really good transition for us because I actually had a therapist that explained it to me this way. When you are diagnosed with MS, you kind of go through different stages of the healing process. You go through the anger stage, you go through a deep sadness stage where you're depressed. Depression is really bad. And she explained it to me almost like as if you've died and you're grieving the old you and you are learning the new you. So what does that look like for you, Nicole?
So I think that was the toughest part of the diagnosis. And I think that part of the reason is there's not enough information out and support. It's almost like parenting and no one wants to talk about the difficult, bad parts about it, right? And if you talk about it, people judge you, right? And so being in a grieving stage, it's something that we don't talk about in our community, but it hits every one of us. I was in a lot of trouble. I was diagnosed and I went into a deep depression, but I was functioning. You know, I was working every day. I was a wife at the time. I was being a mother and doing everything for all of the people, but I was failing myself and in this really, really big, deep depression. And I was not suicidal in terms of wanting to take my life. I was submissive to the idea that I didn't want to fight this. And so I just let's just end this, like, God, like, let's just really close the chapter on this. I've done enough. I'm not fighting this anymore. And I submitted to that. And
that's heavy. And I think that's something that all of us go through that period. That's kind of like when my neurologist told me that I needed to start seeing somebody about my emotional state. Like you, I didn't want to die, but I felt like it would be much easier if I wasn't here anymore. And so I completely empathize with you with that. I totally know how you feel. And it's heavy. It's heavy. It's something that's really heavy that, you know, when people talk about MS, they don't go to that level.
The mental part, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I was diagnosed in February. I went to my primary care physician in July. And I don't know what made me own it. She asked me how I was doing. And I said, I'm dying.
You broke it. Did you break down into tears?
And I was all teared out. I was just numb and very like, I'm dying. And and if I would have been more conscious in the moment, I probably would not have said it, because I represent strength. I do that whole Black woman, we're strong, independent type of thing. And vulnerability is just not something that I align to strength at that time.
Right.
So I told her, and of course, you go through the insurance process and, went and start talking to psychologists, but fairly soon after that, I had a really big exacerbation and I had to, long time in the hospital, had to go to rehab. And it was at the Rehab Institute, Shirley Ryan Rehab, that amazing care, but they had a sign on the wall that said the soul moves first.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw it, everything instantly clicked for me. And I understood, even though people had been trying to tell me, I understood that I was weeping deeply and deeply grieving
Mm-hmm.
everything that I knew, and that it was okay.
Right.
Grieve, and it was okay to be sad about losing things, that because at the time I couldn't even walk.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I had to understand from the inside out, that's what healness and wellness was going to look like for me. And I
Right.
had to allow myself an opportunity to grieve. And that is when things started clicking for me. And I began to try to embrace, and I don't want to say embrace like I'm totally cool with it, because I still have some up and downs, but I
Yeah.
began to turn around and change my thought process about it.
And had acceptance to it.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. And people, and especially in our community, I was diagnosed, a little bit about me. I was diagnosed in March of 2020. Like you, very similar. Some of the mental stuff that you went through, I experienced myself. And what I had to learn was to give myself grace. And
Absolutely.
it sounds like you have gotten to that point now where you're able to give yourself grace, because we as Black women, we're constantly, told we're strong, you're strong, you're strong, you're strong. And if you look at if people really want to look at other races, they don't say that. They don't tell white women that. They don't tell, a lot of
Anyone else.
yeah, it's something that's put on us. And a lot of times it's looked at as, you're fine because you're the strong Black woman, you can get through this. But this is something that you need you need supportive people beside you.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing to back this up. And so, those that will watch and listen and try to dispel this, I strongly believe that one of the reasons why MS is prevalent, the progression is prevalent, the amount of women that are between 32 and 50 in the African American community that are waking up to these diagnoses is conditional. I think that the things we put in our body, and I'm not health conscious at all.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, the things we put in our body, but the conditions as to which we live, the high stress, the extra loaded things we put onto ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
our body is responding in ways that is causing us to, I think, I have nothing to back that up. I'm not a medical doctor, but I just know the life that I lived.
Right.
I'm very blessed. I'm very privileged. But I live a community highly stressful
Right.
image.
Right.
And I think that plays a big part in me being sick and the degree as to which I'm sick.
Well, I do have some factual data for you, because in November of 2021, it's crazy. We're in 2022 now. My neurology department, I go to Georgetown Neurology here in Washington, DC.
Okay.
And we actually had the clinic actually sponsored an MS Awareness Day back in November.
Okay.
And it was really interesting, some of the statistics that they brought out and that they were talking about. And one of the things that they were talking about of why Black women end up having more severe disability than their white peers is because we are diagnosed a lot later.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, doctors don't take that
Nope.
full workup that they're supposed to be doing. And as a result of it, we are getting the short end of the stick, because unfortunately, when ours is discovered, we tend to have a lot more disability that's already present,
Mhm.
and it's permanent damage, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So, you are right. I'll see if I can pull down the presentation that they went through. But that actually was something, I had my 6-month annual appointment with my neuro last week. And
So
that
did
was,
I.
oh, you did? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I had it with her, and that was one of the things that I brought up. I was like, oh, I really like that, MS Awareness Day that you guys did. It was very informative. And she's like, oh yeah, well, what did you find the most informative? And I told her, I said, when you guys started talking about the disparities between Black women, white women, and, everything in between, and how, we have, as Black women, a higher degree of disability when it comes to our diagnosis, because it took so late for us to be diagnosed.
Mhm.
So there is facts behind that. And so you're right. You're right.
I think that the other thing that I learned over this last 3 years, because I now know that vulnerability is a big part of strength and courage.
Mhm.
I didn't exercise my vulnerability muscles, and my diagnosis was difficult because I wasn't used to being supported and helped. I wasn't used to it, and my family and friends weren't used to giving it to me. And
Right.
I'm not accusing anyone of treating me bad. I live a very good life, and I have friends and loved ones and all of that. But this was a lot different, my daughter having to pick me up off the floor.
Yeah.
It just was different. And so I have learned, and one of the things that I would like people to know that are newly diagnosed is, as best as you can, take your loved ones on your journey of healness with you,
Yep.
because you cannot, those that have the luxury of having family and friends and loved ones and people that want to be in your corner, when you isolate your wellness away from your supporters, it lengthens the process to wellness to me,
Mhm.
right? So that means that, in your therapies, take somebody with you.
Mhm.
Um, even your mental therapies, but PT, OT, take someone with you. Involve your family and friends in your journey, because love,
Yeah, and if they don't know, they don't know. If they don't know that you need the help, then they don't know.
correct.
So,
But love, to me, is equal to this infusion that I get every 28 days,
mhm.
right? Love is a healing quality, and it provokes these chemicals in your body that brings about emotional wealth,
Mhm.
right? And so we need those things. If stress takes away from our health, then love adds to our
Right.
health.
Brings it back.
And I
Yeah.
don't think that is promoted enough. First of all, you have to educate everybody about it, because no one knows anything about MS. Okay, it
Well,
is
especially
like, what is that?
sadly in our community, that's why. And that's why
What
I
is
wanted
that?
to have these discussions, with real women, so people, can be more aware as to what's happening. And yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's something in our community that's not talked about enough, and people don't know about it unless they are either dealing with it themselves, or they have a close family member that is dealing with it. Otherwise, a lot of people don't know.
And I think that the other part of that is, it's because it looks so different than a cancer. You know, there is, and I don't mean to be disrespectful because I know, it's a battle that is tough in itself. But there is typically a look to cancer, right? And people look as if they are on a testimony and on a journey. And the thing about MS is I look fine. I look perfectly fine. And people have a hard time understanding when I say, I'm not feeling well today, or my legs aren't working, or, you sound fine. And I'm like, no, my words are slurred, right? And so it's very difficult to convince people that we are as sick as we are. Right. And so that also doesn't help. But when you invite them into your journey with you, they begin to understand more about what we are experiencing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it can be being the strong Black woman, it has a double, what is the word?
Edge sword.
Yes. There you go, because I can't get my words together. But
listen, me too.
Because we're so strong and we're used to being so strong, it's difficult for us to be vulnerable with people and let them see that side that is really hard.
It is.
For me, I think the first person that really was able to see how sick I was my uncle, because he would come up and he would visit from Atlanta, because he's retired, he doesn't work. A lot of times when he comes up here, he'll stay with me because it's nice and quiet. I love you, Bree, but your daddy likes to stay with me. But he'll come up here and he'll stay with me, and he was actually the first person to see me fall. And actually I fell twice in front of him, and one of them I physically could not pick myself up, so he had to physically pick me up off of the floor. And then at that point, I think like the light bulb kind of went off to him. Like, he's like, you can't live by yourself anymore, like this is dangerous. So I don't know if I told you before, but I'll be moving to Atlanta come the summertime.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just, because I've been falling, with the weather up here. I'm in Washington, D.C. Yeah. So, we have all 4 seasons, the cold, the hot. It's just, it's too much, and it messes with my bones. So yeah, I'm probably going to be moving to Atlanta come August. And a fresh start. And I think it'll be good not to be by myself. So
yeah, I'm at a crossroad myself with trying to determine how much longer I'm going to work. I am, I'm almost at the decision. I'm at the decision, but I want to make sure that I'm respectful to my community before I, go public with anything. So I'm at a crossroad with how much longer I'm going to work, and then the what. Right. I feel emotionally exhausted, and I feel out of sorts, like I don't know myself anymore. So for example, last year, every year my birthday is in October, I try to set an intention on the next year. I don't typically do a birthday party or anything. It's a moment of solitude for me, and I really try to set intention. So last year for my birthday, my 44th birthday year, I wanted to spend the year being alive, right? And so I said, I'm going to go on trips, and I'm going to go out and do things, because I was shut in. I used to work and come straight home, right? And so I did this whole thing about, hey, let's get out, let's be alive.
Right.
And every time I went on a trip, or every time I did something, there was an MS situation. For instance, I got on a plane to go to Texas, and the airline broke my rollator. I went to California.
Were they able to give you something right away to replace it?
Well, they tried to, but I am a full figure woman. And so they tried to give me what was akin to something for a child. So I ended up getting a check and I had to experience the trip mostly without my rollator, but it ended up being, and that's what I'm trying to, share with everyone is that even going to the beaches, you can't access the beaches. Went to a comedy show and there was no accessible entrance in the front because I walk with a rollator.
Right.
I had to go all the way to the alley through the kitchen to enter into the comedy hall, and it's just stuff like that that happens all the time. That I lead a community of 1,000 people and I have a whole bunch of leadership skills.
Right.
Very strong, oh no, this is how things are going to happen.
Right.
And in each one of those instances, I resorted to my most smallest vulnerable voice, like almost like a child that needs to be protected and spoken for.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have never thought that I was that person.
Yeah.
And MS is bringing out of me, I'm still looking for my voice. That's why advocacy is so important to me. And I try to take all the opportunities to speak on it. But when I'm tested, I just went through that alley and through that kitchen and we got there late and we were supposed to have seats in accessible space. There were no more seats left. And I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just going to sit here. But I was supposed to sit somewhere else. I should have had to sit in the back. Right. My sister was the one that advocated for me with the airlines to get the check for the new rollator. Right. And my best friend was the one that argued with the people at the beaches because I could not get my rollator through the sand and there was no place, right? And so she's the one that does, when I decide to plan a trip, she does all of the homework about how accessible the place is. Yeah. And it's just small things like that's happening to me that I have to figure out how to advocate for myself in the moment. And it makes me wonder how many of us are going really small in situations because they are really not accessible for us, right? And
and like for me, I people don't understand this, but our lives kind of have to revolve around a setting. So I have to ask people, are there stairs?
Yep.
Is it up a hill?
Yep.
Is there somewhere for me to sit down?
Yep. How far is the door?
How far is the door from my handicap spot? Is parking really good?
Yep.
And it's second nature to us, but people probably look at it like, why the hell are you asking that? But it's needed because unfortunately, a lot of these places, they're supposed to make things handicap accessible, but they're not. They're not.
Even in my school, I cannot get around my school classrooms because I can't get the rollator through the desk. And I'm like, excuse me, pardon me. And it's so distracting and I feel bad, right? And so I think that there's not enough about, I use the term differently able, but there's not a lot of work and a lot of, even though it's the law, but it's not a lot of work and really thoughtfulness around differently able accessibility measures. We need to be sitting at the table in boardrooms. We need to be sitting in design rooms. We need to be a part of the conversation when things are planned, like the sidewalk cracks. When you have a rollator or a walker or a wheelchair and the pavement is uneven,
right?
Listen to me.
That's a hazard. That's how my uncle ended up having to pick me up off the floor, is going into a building. We were visiting my great aunt who she's 91 now, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she has recently moved up here from North Carolina, and going into the building to see her, it had like a little hump going like the in between the door and the sidewalk outside, and it was up a hill on top of that. So I'm having to give my scooter some, some push to make sure it makes it over the hump, but it was too much. My scooter flipped on top of me, and then my uncle had to pick me up.
See,
And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of these settings, and not only that, with jobs, they say they're accommodating to people that have American, what is it, the American Disability
ADA.
Act. Yeah, they say that they are working, for people that have disabilities and trying to make accommodations, but that's bullshit.
Yep.
That's bullshit.
Yep.
And I've been out on disability now since August. And finally, like, the breaking straw for me was one, I'm trying to maintain going to physical therapy, going to all my doctor's appointments. At the time I was getting monthly infusions in an actual infusion center. So I'm like physically like, have all this stuff going on with trying to stay healthy, and then also trying to maintain a career at the same time, with also, having cognitive issues where, especially depending on how my night's sleep was the day before.
Oh my goodness.
It might be a wreck trying to, get a report out, financial, because I've been in finance all my life. But it might be extremely difficult for me to get a report out where, 10 years ago, it would, no brainer. I could do it in the back of my sleep. But now things are different where I'm a little slower. I don't capture things the way that I used to as quickly. And so I made that very clear to my job, 100% clear to them. They didn't convey it to the customer, the way that it needed to be. Right. So, I have the customer calling me when I'm in between going to infusions to coming home. He's calling me, I'm not answering because I'm in the car on my way home for my infusion. He's then emailing me, asking me, am I in for the day? Right? When I physically got back in the house and called because then my boss followed up with the email like 5 minutes later saying, are you in today? Mind you, it's all on my calendar for everybody to see, everybody can see it. I lost it. I was in tears. I'm like, fuck, I am literally fighting for my fucking life.
Yep.
And you guys are fucking, I'm always here. I don't go anywhere but doctor's appointments.
Yep.
So you're telling me in 30 fucking minutes, the world is fucking exploded. And you are, instead of telling the customer, hey,
she's out.
She's out. I looked on her calendar. She should be back in a couple minutes. She'll get right back to you. Not you, call her or you send her an email. She doesn't respond in 6 minutes and you're following up with a phone call. And then because she's not answering your phone call, then you're calling me.
Yep.
And so it's like, I was so furious because it's like, when you put your life into your job and then you become sick and they basically give you their ass to kiss because, you're having difficulties. It's easier for us to get rid of you and get somebody else that doesn't have to have all these doctor's appointments and go places. Right.
Yeah, it's weird because I've been with my company now 23 years and there was 2 times or 3. My daughter is 19 now. So I was off to have her 19 years ago. When she turned 5, I had gallbladder surgery. So I was off like 2 weeks or something like that. And then I was off 2 years ago when I had my exacerbation. And I had to be off 4 months. And so in 23 years, I've probably been off maybe a total of 6 months, medical. And the therapist, the rehab hospital was saying that I needed to have, I had went out in October, it was the end of January, and they were saying you need to be out to March.
Right.
And I contacted my supervisor and said, hey, therapy's saying I need another 2 months. I got some things going on. And my HR department was just like, well, you can take it, but
Guarantee
you
your job and come
can't
back.
protect your job. Wait a minute. wait a minute.
Right. And at that point is when you realize these jobs don't give a shit about you. So
I mean, I'm like,
they
wait,
don't give a shit
what?
about they don't give a shit about you. You're disposable to them.
And it's again one of those things that, like, I don't wish this on anybody. None of this, none of the I wrote a post about the community of people, those of us that are fighting these battles. I don't wish these battles on anyone, right? I pray wellness on everyone, but it's so, you don't know until you have to know.
With it, yeah.
You don't know until you have to know. And it would be very beneficial if there were true advocates and allies in the abled world that could, I think that if you're given a certain position and a certain perspective, then it's important that you use that position and perspective to help others, the voices that are not in the room. Right. And so if there were more able-minded people that can say, guys, I'm not sure we got our accessibility thing going right, or you know, this thing about having to call off and this intermittent leave, and just trying to be more supportive. I walk with a rollator. So anytime I show up at a meeting, couldn't somebody be like, we need to make a path for Principal White?
Right.
Right. Like, is that too much to ask that somebody is like, she can't get around, guys. She can't get into the room if you have the tables and chairs so close together. And so those are the kind of things that I'm just like, I don't, just having compassion and empathy for what people are experiencing. I'm showing up and I'm doing my job, and you can't make sure that I can get my rollator through the row. I just, it upsets me, and it keeps me emotional that simple things, common decency, just certain levels of comfortability are no longer in my locus of control. And I'm dependent on other people to make a space safe for me.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
And one of the discussions that I had with my uncle was, because, you know, during COVID, I was actually diagnosed the same week as COVID. So I pretty much was like in a bubble for 2 years. And my uncle, he came and he's like, come on, we're going to go out. We're going to go get something to eat. I hadn't been to a restaurant like even before COVID. So I was like, okay, you know, I haven't done that in a while. Let's go. And we're sitting at the table, and I was just telling him, I was like, I feel vulnerable now. You know, I said, I feel like, you know, I'm easy target for somebody to rob or to steal.
Yes.
You know, I only feel safe going around a little circle in my building with my dog because, you know, she's a Frenchie and people steal dogs. It's like, those are things that when you become disabled, you have to think about. So, you know, I was just sharing with him, like, you know, there's so many vulnerabilities that I have now that, you know, people are like, oh, you need to get out, you need to do stuff.
It's scary out there.
It's like, yeah, it's like, it's very scary
out there
to do stuff when you're disabled and you haven't, you know, this is like new to you. It's very scary. So it's like my house is my little bubble. And so, you know, I was explaining that to him, and he just kind of broke down, and he was like, I didn't know you felt that way. And so it also is very important, because you kind of touched on this earlier. It's very important for you to bring your family on your journey with you, and to explain, and for you to explain to them what it is that you're feeling. Because I think a lot of times we have expectations that people just should know, you know, that they should just know how we feel. And so, yeah, like the vulnerabilities thing has been really difficult for me.
And that was a thing after the airline incident with my rollator. I had a conversation. It ended up being a very emotional. I was extremely triggered and just an emotional wreck afterwards. I had a conversation with my family, and I said, this is why it's important for you to understand what I'm going through and understand what happens with MS, because the way that my MS is showing up, I'm already slurring my voice, my words, there's periods that I can't talk. I have paralysis of the mouth sometimes. Words are beginning to escape me. My memory is impacted. And there may become a time when I can't speak on my own behalf.
Right.
And if you don't understand what I need to maintain safety physically and emotionally, how can you advocate on my behalf?
Right. Right.
And it ended up being this whole big old thing, but in essence, this is literally what it comes down to. Because if I lose my ability to walk, or if I am, preferably it doesn't get to this, but if I am bedridden, like, who is going to know if we don't have an understanding and you don't understand what this is doing to me
in your body? Yeah.
How do you advocate for me on my behalf? Should I lose the ability to do that? Right. And that's what supporters, in my opinion, need to know and be aware of. Like, this is life or death for us, right? And losing your independence is not a game. And it's not something that we take lightly. And people are really quick to say, oh, and it's not that, or look at this person and look how, oh, it's not. No, you are literally losing who you used to be. And losing independence is not a good feeling.
No, especially when you've been the strong Black woman.
And there's this invisible clock that we don't know exists.
Yeah.
And so can't sleep. Yeah, because you're worried about waking up the next morning, not being able to see. Right. You, in addition to the physical things that are happening to you, it plays a mental game with you. Right. And I've lost my eyesight in one eye. Right. And it came back. I've lost the ability to walk. It came back. I've been paralyzed on a complete left side. It came back. Right. And so this is not something that is like, people are like, oh, well, we don't know that. I am going to live for today, but we have to also prepare, in my opinion, for the spectrum of how this thing can attack me. And so I really think that supporters need, and family members and loved ones need to see that perspective too. This they call it toxic positivity, right? This toxic positivity around, oh, but look at you, oh, you're just having a bad day. And I had to say, stop saying that, because it's not a bad day to me when I'm showing up the best way I know how.
Yep.
It's not bad. When I'm showing up the best way I can, it's nothing bad about that.
Yeah, people don't understand. Like, one of my girlfriends put it to me this way, and I was like, you know what? You're right. She said people with MS get a certain amount of spoons for the day.
Yep, spoon theory.
And you might get one spoon, you might get 5 spoons, but the bottom line is, once all those spoons are used for the day, you're done. There's nothing else that you can do. There's no going in the kitchen and making yourself a 30-minute meal. It might even come down to one day you wake up and you got 0 spoons. Well, guess what? The only thing I'm going to do at that point is I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm coming back to the bed. Because physically, the thought of trying to, take a shower, putting clothes on, getting dressed, put the hell with that. Like, I got nothing today. I got nothing. Nothing can happen today, because this is how I feel. And it might change from day to day, where yesterday I had 6 spoons. Today I got 2 spoons. It's MS manifests its way differently in all of us. And what you feel today is not how I feel, and vice versa. You know what I mean? And so again, it comes down to that invisible illness and people just needing to be kind to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself in somebody else's shoes,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it boils down to a lot of people are just selfish. And I think kind of before my diagnosis, I fell into that because I was all about money. I was all about busting my ass, working hard, getting what I want, when I want, going where I want, when I want. It took MS slowing me down for me to realize a lot of shit about life.
Yeah, I think that I was judgmental, right? And I think that my life afforded me just certain mindsets. And MS has really made me slow down and see and appreciate just things. Like, I can sit in my room all day, no TV, no music, no anything, and just sit. My best friend, I call it sitting there looking stupid, but but you really just sitting there. And those moments, my sister and I were having a conversation. I don't feel like you're enjoying life. I said, you know what I enjoy today? Drinking my cup of tea. A hot cup of tea, the length of time that it takes for you to finish it. I'm just like, yes, this is living, right? Because I'm all, drinking it down and just like a slower pace, and just, you have to be mindful of your body. The spoon theory and occupational therapy is the reason why one of the reasons why I am as functioning as I am now. Occupational therapy taught me how to do things, how to use the tools, having the pole that puts your sock on, and just different things that they have, and the process as to which you can set up your day. So now I get my clothes ready at night, which is something I did as a kid. But now I understand that the energy that it takes for me to get ready, if I get my clothes ready at night, then I am not using a necessary spoon just to get out the door.
Yeah.
Right. And so, just all these types of things that I've learned about keeping myself as independent as possible. Another one of the things I tell people that are newly diagnosed: go to the therapies. All of them.
You have
vocational therapy. I didn't even know vocational therapy existed. Vocational therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And it's just not for for people with lisp and things of that nature. Speech therapy taught me executive functioning. How can I stay functioning at my work, at my job? What tools, what strategies, right? PT, mental therapy, there are people that job is solely to make sure that we can stay functioning. In PT, we called my school. We had to measure the hallways. My exercise was the length of my school hallways, right? So they make it so occupational therapy came to my home.
Right.
Help me redesign my closet, my kitchen. Okay, it's too much energy to bend down and get pots. The pots need to be at eye level. Just all these things that I just didn't consider. Your spices. Nope, and it makes sense. It's common sense.
Yeah.
But to have somebody come in and evaluate you in your space, go to the therapies.
Yeah.
You have to do that.
Yeah. You owe it to yourself.
Absolutely. And have your family go with you. Really, because you can't do it without them.
Yeah. So we are winding up. We had a really good discussion. I think we have one more kind of, question that I can put out there to you. And that would be, what is the one thing that you have learned from MS that you wish you would have learned a lot sooner in life?
I've learned that vulnerability is strength. Yeah. That you're just as strong as being a helper as you are in receiving help. It's not weak to be vulnerable. Right. Being able to access your emotions is a sign of strength.
Right. Well, Nicole, you left us with some good nuggets, and I appreciate you coming and sitting down with me again.
Thank you for having me, Mia.
Although, the first time, technical issues on my side. I did not know how to record from Zoom. So appreciate you taking some time and coming back and chatting with me. I actually think this discussion was a lot better than the first one.
Yeah, it was a little, this one was a little bit deeper, and I think it's driven by emotions, right? And so I'm in a very March is always a retrospective and introspective month for me, and so I'm wide open with emotions, and so you got that part of me, all of those things that I'm thinking about and trying to connect with. So that's what came out of me today. So
well, I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody that's looking at this is going to be just as appreciative as I am. I think that you have given a lot of people some things to chew on about maybe their participation in other people's lives, and also for those that are newly diagnosed, them learning to give themselves grace sooner as well. So
absolutely.
appreciate you being here, and
Yeah.
we will be in contact again, and I hope you enjoy your Saturday.
All right. Go March, MS Awareness Month, everybody. Go learn something new about MS.
Yes, please, please. All righty. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.